Hey everyone. During this session, we will dive into Galileo's latest credit and lending product offering, Buy Now, Pay Later. To briefly introduce myself, my name is Toney. I'm a senior product manager on the credit and lending team at Galileo, and I'm super excited to walk you through our Buy Now, Pay Later solution. Specifically, today we are going to discuss the market and consumer behavior. We will then explore the Galileo Buy Now, Pay Later solution through the eyes of an example consumer, and an overview will follow of what makes the solution competitive. We will then wrap up with a high-level view of the technical flow that powers Galileo Buy Now Pay Later under the hood. Let's get started with the market and opportunity. The first thing to understand about Buy Now Pay Later is how rapidly it is growing, especially in the United States. Afterpay and Accenture found that the Buy Now Pay Later consumer base is growing by 300% per year since 2018, reaching 45 million active users last year who are spending more than $20 billion. This is currently just over 2% of e-commerce spending in the United States. But where does this explosive growth take us in the future? Buy Now Pay Later is projected to account for over 10% of e-commerce spending as early as 2024, in as little as 1 year. This growth rate closely resembles what has already taken place in foreign markets, Australia in particular. Buy Now Pay Later is the new way to pay, but how does it compare to credit card growth? Buy Now Pay Later spending is exponentially higher than credit card spending by over 220%. Buy Now Pay Later is one of the newest payment methods, which attributes explosive growth. But why are consumers choosing Buy Now Pay Later at checkout? What makes it an attractive payment method? According to a recent PayPal study, priorities such as clarity and transparency on fees, security, ease of use, rewards, and funds available all dictate what payment method is used at checkout. Given this research, what is most interesting is that Buy Now Pay Later is beating out credit cards in nearly all of these payment priorities, all except rewards. The biggest gap between the two is around clarity of fees or interest rates. Buy Now Pay Later consumers feel that Buy Now Pay Later provides them with a real understanding of what their true spend will be when making a purchase. To illustrate this, imagine you are at Best Buy purchasing a new $2,000 TV. You know you don't have the money to make this purchase with cash, so you must decide between a credit card and Buy Now Pay Later. You are a revolving credit card consumer and understand it will take about 6 weeks to pay off this purchase. It would be very difficult for you to calculate how much this TV would end up costing you with a 25% APR over one billing cycle. However, with Buy Now Pay Later, you have the option to pay this off over 6 weeks with no fees as long as you are on time. This is where Buy Now Pay Later becomes so captivating. With most services being interest-free, consumers have a strong understanding of how much that TV will cost over time, in stark contrast to traditional revolving credit cards today. You will also notice that Buy Now Pay Later consumers feel that Buy Now Pay Later provides them with more spending power and more security than credit cards. These latter points may not be entirely true in every circumstance, but this consumer perception is interesting nonetheless. The last of the data that I will leave you with comes from some of the most recently published research on Buy Now Pay Later, research from January of 2022. That research calls out that 70% of current Buy Now Pay Later users of Afterpay, Affirm, Klarna, etc., say they would be interested in using Buy Now Pay Later products from their banks if such offerings were available. With Galileo Buy Now Pay Later, you now have the opportunity to bring this consumer interest to reality. Let's dive into how we can enable you to do so. Meet Jim. Jim's washing machine just broke and he needs to purchase a replacement. As a single father, he is short on cash and does have a healthy amount of credit card debt, so he turns to his bank's Buy Now Pay Later offering. On the homepage of his banking app, Jim sees an offer for Buy Now Pay Later, and that he has been pre-approved for a $1,000 virtual card. He selects the offer and learns the card is single use, can be used almost anywhere MasterCard is accepted, splits his purchase into 4 payments over 6 weeks, and that using the card will not affect his credit score. Before moving forward, I want to make a few callouts. First, Galileo Buy Now Pay Later is currently a MasterCard solution. We will review MasterCard guidelines for this program in a few slides. Secondly, this program is very flexible. These cards can split purchases into any number of installments for any length of time, but more on this later. Thirdly, reporting capabilities for Buy Now Pay Later with the 3 major credit bureaus are being explored, so this may be an option if you want to report on your cardholders. These screens merely show a rendition of how Galileo Buy Now Pay Later could be configured. Turning back to Jim, He progresses past the preview page and sees a simulated version of his buy now pay later loan. He learns that the card only allows for a single purchase up to his pre-approved credit limit. If he decides to only spend $600 of the $1,000 extended to him, Jim does not have $400 remaining due to the single-use nature of the virtual card. Finally, Jim accepts the offer and is extended a virtual card to use online or in store. Jim decides to head to Lowe's to purchase his new washer. After using his virtual card at checkout, the virtual card is removed from his mobile wallet and removed from the application. Once the purchase settles, the first payment is assessed. Jim made his first payment and sees he has 3 payments remaining, their due date, and the amount due. When the loan has been fully paid, Jim will be prompted to spin up another Buy Now Pay Later virtual card for another purchase. Galileo Buy Now Pay Later gives you strong flexibility in how you stand up your Buy Now Pay Later program. There are only a few MasterCard requirements that must be adhered to when designing your program. First, the virtual card must be single-use. This helps ensure the card is not functioning as a credit card or violating Consumer Financial Protection Bureau regulations. Secondly, the minimum transaction amount is $50. Thirdly, there is no maximum dollar amount for a virtual card or loan. You can lend your consumers as much money as you and your bank are comfortable with. Fourth, there is no specific requirement on the number of installments or frequency of repayment. The days of Buy Now Pay Later being solely tied to pay in 4 over 6 weeks are over. However, if you choose to offer programs with over 4 installments, you will be subject to guidelines outlined in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's Regulation Z. Lastly, there are no requirements around the fees you want or don't want to assess. Now that you understand how Galileo Buy Now Pay Later works, let's turn to what makes our solution competitive in the market. Galileo Buy Now Pay Later is a solution in which everyone involved in the transaction wins, beginning with the consumer. Virtual cards give the consumer access to a seamless, bank-offered experience. Instead of managing multiple Buy Now Pay Later accounts and their installment plans across various apps and websites, you can provide consumers with a one-stop-shop experience. Secondly, consumers don't have to worry whether or not a merchant is in network. With MasterCard installments, all MasterCard accepting merchants have been automatically opted into the program, so these cards can be used almost anywhere. As a note, merchants have the ability to opt out, and clients also have the ability to restrict Buy Now Pay Later virtual cards to specific merchant categories. Secondly, looking at program managers. Galileo's virtual cards give you an easy entry into the Buy Now Pay Later market. Leverage the power of MasterCard and Galileo APIs to launch a product quickly. Secondly, there is no need to pursue merchant partnerships. You can launch virtual cards worry-free, knowing that consumers will be taking advantage of MasterCard's merchant relationship. And lastly, you'll be giving your consumers a new way to pay. Buy Now Pay Later within a banking or cash management app is still a unique feature. Enable your users with more spending power, acquire new users, and retain the ones you already have. Lastly, looking at things from a merchant perspective. Merchants are saving money by using Galileo and MasterCard virtual cards. Merchant fees are about 50% less than what the big players charge merchants. Secondly, merchants do not need to worry about contracting into a merchant network for a Buy Now Pay Later service provider. And lastly, just as with all Buy Now Pay Later products, merchants will achieve higher conversions on their sales. Looking at the economics, Galileo Buy Now Pay Later also presents you with stronger interchange in comparison to traditional debit and credit products, where non-Durbin debit grants about 80 bips and basic credit cards grant around 150 to 200 bips. Galileo Buy Now Pay Later presents you with about 275 bips when used at the most popular retailers, and that's after network fees. Beyond economics, Galileo Buy Now Pay Later also presents you with 3 unique advantages. First, when it comes to underwriting Buy Now Pay Later loans, banking apps have access to rich customer data that non-bank Buy Now Pay Later providers could only dream of. This enables you to make stronger and safer underwriting decisions, an important edge in light of some skepticism of the popular Buy Now Pay Later services. Secondly, if you are a current Galileo client taking advantage of our debit products, implementing Buy Now Pay Later has never been easier. If you are not a current Galileo client, Buy Now Pay Later is a great place to start. Lastly, Galileo will service your loans and grant you the capability to add incremental pricing. So what are the specifics around Galileo's role in Buy Now Pay Later? Our value is split into virtual card creation and loan servicing. On the virtual card side, we handle card creation and provisioning, transaction processing, and enforcement of the single-use functionality required by MasterCard. On the loan servicing side, we handle loan creation with the payment schedule, as well as paying off the virtual card. We provide the ability for you to add incremental pricing such as origination fees or late fees. We handle payment processing from Galileo DDAs or external accounts with support for both partial and overpayments. Lastly, we support charge-off and even credit reporting to all three major bureaus. Let's wrap up with a high-level technical overview of how your system and Galileo will interact to provide buy now, pay later to your customers. Beginning with virtual card creation and auth, you will be responsible for underwriting your buy now, pay later offers and surfacing them in your app for your customers. You will teach customers how your program works and show them a simulated version of their loan. If they accept, you'll make an API call to Galileo to create a single-use virtual card and account for the cardholder. You will prompt the consumer to add the virtual card to their mobile wallet, and Galileo will process the provisioning request. After a consumer uses the card, Galileo will process the authorization and disable the virtual card. You also have the ability to participate in auth decisioning for buy now, pay later as well. This can be advantageous in a variety of scenarios, especially if you believe a consumer's financial history has changed since you last underwrote their loan. Turning to loan creation and repayment. Once settlement has occurred, you will use that data to call Galileo to create the loan. Our system will then disperse those funds to pay off the virtual card account and will also assess and process the cardholder's first payment. Our system also keeps track of the repayment schedule and processes repayment. Once the loan has been paid off, we notify you of loan completion. To close our session today, the market for buy now, pay later is growing at an incredibly rapid pace. Consumers today have more ways to pay than at any time in history, and more of them are choosing buy now, pay later to get the goods they desire. While the big buy now, pay later providers have had a tight grip on the market, banking and cash management apps have a real opportunity to enable their existing consumers with more spending power. A seamless banking experience where their buy now, pay later loans are managed in one place, and a broader merchant network. According to the research we went through today, that is exactly what consumers are asking for. Let's partner together to bring this consumer interest to reality. This has been a brief overview of Galileo Buy Now Pay Later. If you'd like to learn more, you can connect with us through email, on the web, or follow us on social media, any of the methods you see on screen here. Thank you so much for watching. For Galileo, I'm Toney.